Right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Celtic are at Fir Park tomorrow with another 3 points on the line in the Premiership, and we are going to chat about that game. We're going to look back at the weekend and anything else that comes up, like the fact Asim is wearing Paris Saint-Germain gear today. Asim, explain yourself.
I just thought I'd take some heat off Stevie for the weekend with his 17 jacket. So there you go. This is for you, Stevie.
Yeah, not sure what I think. Are you a kind of PSG fan?
I'm not at all. I actually detest them. It was it was a birthday present, so I've got to put it on every now and again. It's one of those ones.
Fair enough. Scott, we'll start with the Socceroos squad. 16.7% of our viewers actually hail from Australia now, which is a pretty mega number. I don't know how much of a part you've played in that or what part Ange has played. But in terms of the Socceroos World Cup squad, it was announced in the last few hours. Aaron Moy is in. He is one of 7 current SPFL players, which is pretty major. There are also 3 Scottish-born players. No Tom Rogic, though. So what are the thoughts on this?
Well, firstly, obviously, it's great to see, obviously, a lot of Australians playing in Scottish football getting the nod, I must say. Obviously, Bache from Dundee United being one, Bacchus being another one from St Mirren, Devlin, Kai Rolls from Hearts, and obviously
Atkinson,
Aaron Moy, and Aaron Moy as well. So no, it's good, and obviously Jason Cummings has come a long way in a year, hasn't he? You know, in terms of where his career was probably heading toward, and the trouble that he was sort of getting himself into at Dundee. How he's turned it around. Full credit to him. He's done excellent over here, and he gets his chance. So let's see how he goes. Obviously, another former Scottish former player that played in Scotland, Adam Taggart at Dundee United, didn't make the squad, which was probably a bit of a shock in terms of playing in the Japanese, J1. Missed out, and Cummings got the nod ahead of him. So, the pressure's on to perform, I guess. But I think there'll be a few others just before him that probably get the nod, I imagine.
It was Tom Rogic never going to be included, really?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't even forgot about that. Look, I think for me, it was the right decision. There was a couple of selections that people asked questions of. The goalkeeping position was one that we had another top goalkeeper who was in fine form. But sometimes it just doesn't come down to ability. It comes down to your principles, your values as a coach, and how much you value the jersey and the shirt. And on the hour of calling, Tommy wasn't there for the team, to qualify. They needed Tommy, and Tommy wasn't there, and like with a couple of them. So I think when that happens, look, we're not going to win the World Cup. Let's be real. Australia's not going to win the World Cup. We're looking to have a good one. Can we get to the next stage? Big ask with the group that we have. So, for me, obviously, the manager, Graham Arnold, stuck to his principles and his values in terms of the boys that got him there. He's pretty much stuck with majority of them, and not gone for any of the, you could say, easier option because of the individual talents that we're going to bring to the squad. But I think if you're a player that's been on that journey, sacrificed a lot, and then you get pipped by someone else who hasn't had that journey, it's a hard one to take. The only way I feel that that's acceptable is if they're actually going to make the starting 11. However, with Tommy, I think it was just a lack of communication thing with Graham Arnold himself. I think that could have been a lot different if it was handled probably a little different. Obviously, I don't have the inside track on that and what was going on with Tommy. So, realistically, I can't comment from Tommy's perspective or what went on. All I can say is that from the outside, when you look at it and you're going to qualify and you're desperate to qualify and you're under a lot of pressure as a head coach and as a team because everyone media-wise is on the back of you, and you manage to pull the rabbit out of the hat, I think it's kind of like, well, you weren't there for us, so how can I take you? It was kind of probably left to, a rock and a hard place for the manager, but he's chose to stick by his own principles throughout that.
It just seems a shame that Tom Rogic isn't going to be on that world stage, given we all know what he can do against even the best teams. Just in case you're wondering, Australia's group: France, Denmark and Tunisia. Opening game is against France. Asim, I'm assuming you're supporting France.
I feel like it's no, just to touch, it is a shame with regards to Tom, but as Scott's alluded to, I think it does come down to more than just the ability side of things. We all know that he's probably one of Australia's most gifted technical players, but if you're not there and we don't know the ins and outs of why he wasn't.
Right, that's the 16.7% of you taken care of, so we can move across to Celtic now. Another dramatic finish at the weekend. Asim, honestly, how were you feeling when that Dundee United equaliser went in?
I genuinely didn't think we were going to get a winner this time. I know we've done it in the past, and you know this team in particular have shown that they go right to the end, and we've came back from an even later equaliser, obviously down in Perth. But I just felt because we hadn't really created many chances in the last 15, 20 minutes, that I just thought when they scored, I didn't see us getting, and I knew there wouldn't be much injury time because a lot of it was played in the first half as well. So I think it was only 3 minutes. So I feared the worst, but this team have just proven time and time again. You know, they keep going, and we had that kind of run of corners. So you're just hoping for something to come out. But yeah, I think you mentioned it as well in one of the videos that you weren't sure as well when that each goal goes in. It's 87 minutes on the clock, and it just we'd taken a few of our creative players off by that point. So you'd almost been resigned to potentially losing quite a couple of silly points, I felt. And the elation when that goes in, like you say, it feels almost better than just a 2-1 run-of-the-mill victory, because just again that belief and shown that what we can do. We've beaten teams comfortably, but at the same time we've won a few games like this, and that's always brilliant because I think it just rallies everyone together even more.
Yeah, Scott, you're probably a good person to ask, given that you played in a Celtic team famous for scoring late goals. You scored some of them yourself. What does it feel like to be in a team like that?
Firstly, I think you never feel like the game's never there to be won till that final whistle. You're that confident that you'll get another chance. We just need one more chance. Another chance is going to come. We'll just keep getting the chances. They're going to come. They're going to come. We'll keep battering the door down. You just believe it's going to happen. And that's a strong mentality, a strong belief to have. It's dangerous for anyone you play against to have that type of mentality. And like you said, this team's showing it when they need to. They can step up a gear. Because let's be real, I even heard you say that you weren't overly excited by the game itself. The game sort of flew past. It was still a good. It was still a good game, though, in terms of the chances at both ends. Dundee United played exceptionally well, you have to say, away from home, particularly in the circumstances that they're actually in. And the 9-0 drubbing that we gave them, away to Tannadice, their performance was excellent on the day. There was chances at both ends. Obviously, Celtic hit the bar as well to go further ahead. But in the end, Furuhashi, who obviously scored it away to Livingston previous week, seems to be obviously off the back of the disappointment, not even getting to the World Cup himself, and then obviously an injury replacement's been had, and he's still not going to the World Cup, which is really interesting because he's a top player. Maybe probably not found his top form since his hamstring injury for Celtic, but hopefully now this will give him the confidence. He'll get a little bit of a rest now, albeit hopefully he's coming to Australia. I'm looking forward to that if he is. But he can come back firing, on all cylinders. Obviously, Giakoumakis has done an exceptional job to this point as well. But a fully flying Kyogo second half of the season is a scary thought.
Certainly, I mean, he scored, I think, 9 league goals. So as much as Europe was a disappointment, he's been on fire in the league, and he scored a lot of big goals, early goals in games, and also the late one at the weekend. Just loved that finish. I mean, it's do either you want to take on the issue of handballs, VAR, etc.?
Wow, Ange obviously had his rant after the game, and it's hard to believe that was given. There's been a lot of contentious ones in recent weeks all around the world. We've had our issues with VAR over here in Australia in the last week or so as well, in terms of turning decisions and then not turning decisions when referees make decisions, and you're thinking, well, that's what it's there for. not just to give penalties, but to stop penalties being given. But yeah, really, really harsh on Bernabé. Like Ange said, he's not even looking at the ball, and his arm's not in really, for me, in that awkward position. Look, I think a few people have said they can see why it's given in the letter of the law right now, but the letter of the law probably isn't right, is it, in terms of how it's fashioned? But you're always going to have this grey area in football, regardless if you have VAR or not. Everyone's going to have different opinions. It depends. Doesn't matter if the referee's making the choice or the VAR is going to make it. We're always going to have these discussions.
Yeah, I mean, it's by the letter of the law. As daft as this sounds, it possibly is a penalty, because I do think that the law is just crazy at the moment. But that doesn't get given without VAR. There's not a chance that gets given. Well, it's proven because it wasn't given. So the issue, and I think there was stats yesterday I saw online that the penalties in I think the 12 games we've had since VAR came in have gone up like twofold or whatever. So it's we're clearly seeing a lot more penalties. But Ange's issue on the actual VAR itself, Asim, and the fact it's slowing the game down, just seems to be taking so long and kind of disrupting our flow at times.
Yeah, I think that's my major gripe with it as well just now. Is one is that the handball issues just seem so contentious. As you say, there's no real consistency with it, with VAR or without VAR. Nobody really knows now what the rule is and how it should be applied. And you just look at obviously the Hearts one that Ange referenced as well when we didn't get it, and it's just baffling, because if one's given, then how's the other? So that's something that needs cleared up. In terms of VAR itself, yeah, like the weekend there, it felt like in the first half in particular, it was just non-stop stoppages, and they're taking maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Just firstly them having a look, and then when they tell the referee to go over, he's then having a look for another 4 or 5 minutes as well. And yeah, that's totally going against how we like to play. Just from a purely Celtic point of view, we obviously like to keep the game flowing, and generally fans in the ground want to see a game that's flowing and not constantly stopped. Hopefully that's something that will get ironed out and will improve. But it just seems right now that they're taking far too long, both with the review and wherever they are checking the VAR cameras, and then also when the referee goes over. If it's not clear and obvious, then it shouldn't be taking 4 or 5 minutes to check every single possible camera to try and find something. And I think that's where the problem lies at the moment, is they're actually looking to find issues when on the face of it it's not there.
I think every country's had its teething issues when they first had this implemented into their games. I think everywhere you've gone, I can take Australia by example, that they've had these issues that we're talking about now. As time goes on, they do improve. They get more experienced at it. The referees, this is their first time of doing it as well. I'm not saying I'm sticking up for referees. I moaned enough at them.
You've changed a lot, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. But even in terms of, I think they're dead nervous about not getting it right. And I think that's why it's taken that long, because of the scrutiny that comes with it. If they do get it wrong, even with VAR, some would say they still did that on the weekend, though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean it's frustrating for me. The time it's taken, and there's definitely other issues as well.
Even if you look at the game at the weekend, I thought we were playing pretty well when we scored, and you could feel that we had the momentum, and it could go on to get more and more. And then just the constant VAR stoppages, I felt totally disrupted the flow of the game. And on top of that, you've got teams knowing that that's what they're trying to do anyway, in terms of time wasting and just stopping quick throw-ins, stopping quick free kicks. Which they're well within their rights if that's what they want to do. But that on top of these VAR stoppages, it's definitely not helping our flow. And you've seen that at the weekend. I think that's why it became quite a disjointed performance from us at times. I thought we were good in spells, but it's not helping us at the moment in that sense. But as Scott said, I think we were kind of told to expect teething issues, and we're definitely seeing that at the moment.
Clearly bugs Ange as well, Scott, doesn't it? Because he very rarely comments on things that are out with his control. We know that about him, and yet he very clearly made the point after the game several times that he's frustrated with the way VAR is working.
Yeah, I've seen similar from him in terms of when he was in Japan. His impatience with it, doesn't like it, and obviously, like you've talked about there, because of the influence of how it stops the flowing of his team. Because Ange's teams are high tempoed and want to get the game flowing all the time. We see it even with the ball boys now, how quickly that's instructed to get the ball back in and play. That's something Ange has implemented there. So when there's all these stoppages, it does help. The opposition teams, particularly when you come to Celtic Park, that even the fans are getting disgruntled by it. And it's sort of making the game less enjoyable for the fan. So when that happens, then the fans aren't as buoyant, aren't as up, and being that 12th man that you have at times, and backs to the wall for the opposition. They get that breather. They're able to, reconvene. Manager talks to them, sorts a few problems out while that's going on, and that seems to be the case at the moment.
Remember Ryan McGowan telling me that Ange used to get so frustrated when the ball wasn't in play for a certain number of minutes.
Most football games is probably only between 50 to 65 minutes of the ball being actually in play. And one of the things after every game was time of ball in play. And if it was under 60, he would be absolutely raging at everyone, unless it was out of our circumstances. But it was in terms of as soon as the ball's out the pitch, as soon as it's a foul, play as quickly as you can, because the longer the ball's in the pitch with the intensity that we want to play at, with the high tempo, with the press, we will just tire them out. And the longer we can make the game in terms of the ball actually being in the pitch, the more chance we have of winning.
Right, this week, guys, is it just a case of getting over the line, 2 wins, Scott, and we go bare minimum 7 clear going into the World Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously, go back to Fir Park on Wednesday night. Had a fantastic result there in the League Cup already. So they'll go there with confidence, and I think Motherwell will come out and try and play, which is great for Celtic. They're not going to sit in and drop low. I don't think Stevie Hamill will do that. I think he'll come out and try and attack them. Look, I think you're absolutely right. I think you can't. I always talk about this as well in terms of when you win leagues, or sometimes you want the performance, but as long as the results are there, like the weekend, turning point within the season, all of a sudden you win that late. You might not be pleased with the whole performance, but all of a sudden your rivals drop points, and how quickly it changes within an instant of 4 minutes in a game, and then the next day them dropping points, and now you're 7 clear. So I think it is just about getting over the line now and getting maximum points by hook or by crook. But I think they're more than capable to really turn the screw and put 2 great performances on, and there'll be a lot of players looking forward to the break. There'll be a few players looking forward to a World Cup as well. But I think they're in a good place and full of confidence, and that result on the weekend will give them a lot of confidence for these 2 games as well. When you win games late like that, and you get over the line, it just gives everyone that massive boost. Training this week will be really, really good building into this game, because of the feel-good factor. When you win games that late and your rivals drop points, it's just you bounce in on the Monday. So
really?
They'll be looking for, yeah, absolutely. So
right.
They'll be looking forward to this game on Wednesday.
Interesting insight. These footballers, Asim, they tell us they're only focused on themselves, and yet Rangers drop points, and there's a wee buzz in the air.
Nah, that's a lie. That's a lie. I mean, I remember going in the hotels, and you'd be like, "What's the score?" And you'd hear. You wouldn't watch the game, but you would hear it. Like you would try, because you didn't want to tempt fate and turn the telly on.
Yeah.
Well, that was my thing anyway. But yeah. So they'll all bounce in. They would have all bounced in on Monday, and looking forward to the next one. That's for sure.
They're well aware, because I noticed a few of them. I think Abada, Juranovic were all commenting on Adam Montgomery's Instagram, so they're well aware. Right, guys, I've kind of picked a team here. You can let us know what you think. Joe Hart, Ralston, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor, O'Reilly, Moy, Hatate, Abada, Kyogo, Jota. So a few changes for the weekend. I think we're going to see that, because Ange just kept doing that. Personally, I mean, I don't know if Ange will do this. I think Ralston continues for me. I thought he had a good game on Saturday. I think he's our best right back at this moment in time. I don't think Juranovic's form has been great. And I'd maybe like to see Starfelt coming in. I just have a wee sneaky suspicion he might do that. Is there anyone out with that you guys desperately want to see at Fir Park?
I'd like to see more of Haksabanovic. I just think I know what you're saying in terms of rotation, and just obviously using the squad and making sure they're all getting game time and mixing it up. But for me, him and Jota together were 2 most creative outlets, and I don't think we've seen them together too often. I know they played together at the weekend there, but I just feel like whenever they've got the ball, you feel like something's going to happen. They do a lot of their good work on the ball in terms of creation of chances, but he's rarely kind of kept the same front three, has he, for 2 games in a row? So I can see why you've probably gone for a bada there. But I would like to see more of Haksabanovic. I think every time I've seen him, I've been fairly impressed. Um, and yeah, just to touch on what you were talking about earlier, I definitely think it is just a case of if we can just get these 2 wins and go in 7 points clear. I think that weekend there was kind of monumental. We had a few like this last season. If you remember when they dropped to Ross County and then we won quite late against Dundee United as well. And it just felt like that kind of weekend again, where the swing could have potentially gone to 2 points had we dropped and they won, but instead it's 7. And despite all the noise across the city, we just have to focus on ourselves and not get complacent. And if we can go in and just kind of really hammer it home for these next 2 games to go into that break 7 points clear, I think psychologically as well will just put us in a right good place.
Yeah, look, I can't argue with that team, Hamish. I like the looks of that. It's arguably probably Celtic's strongest team on paper at the moment, without McGregor in the side. You talk about Haksabanovic as well, scoring a double, but Abada gets on the score sheet late on as well, so it's tit for tat. But you talked about that man, Tony Ralston. I mean, I got a soft spot for him because I played with him at Dundee United when he came on loan, and I always loved his work ethic and the pace and power of the player, but obviously he's got the game intelligence now. And what I love about him is that obviously last year, and no one fancied him. Everyone thought, he's not going to be good enough. He's out the door. He proved under Ange that he learnt and progressed. And then obviously Ivanovic, off the back of last season, start this season, started well. And you're thinking, is he really going to get a go now? Is he just going to be a bit part? But again, he just keeps knocking the door down, doesn't he? And he keeps making it hard for Ange not to pick him. And he has his moment, obviously, in the game as well, where he flicks it on for Ashley for the third goal to put them back in the lead as well. And you can see how much it meant to him and how much he loves the club as well. So I'm really pleased for him that obviously he's getting his opportunity again. He's taking it once again. He's not dipped in form. He's not found it hard when you've gone out of the team to come back in. He's just stuck to his performances. And that's a really good sign for Celtic as well, that they've got players that are coming in and actually performing as well.
He's like really good technically as well, which I think people kind of overlook at times. Like he had one at the weekend, a lofted ball over the top, and he was the most advanced player, and he controlled it and got a shot away, and the keeper made a good save. So I actually think, at the moment I want to see him at right back, for the next 2 games. Hopefully that then spurs Juranovic into maybe doing what happened to Greg Taylor, and he can really improve, because he's, for me, been one of the disappointments so far this season. Scott, what have you made of this rotation that Ange has been doing for the past month? Because he's kind of almost had a kind of weekend team and a midweek team as well, but it seems to be working.
Yeah, look, I think when we looked at the basis of the squad at the start of the season, I think we were saying that when the Champions League came. I remember us talking when Champions League started that this is the time when he's going to need his squad fully fit and available to him. So he's done that exceptionally well over the course. And he's using that rotation to his advantage, and players are performing when they're coming in, not just Tony Ralston, but even James Forrest has come back finally, fully fit again, which is great to see, scoring goals and performing as well, adding extra little bit as well, into that squad that probably a lot of us didn't think was going to happen for James this season. So look, I think all bodes well at the moment, and I'm excited as well to obviously. I know we're a little bit away from it and there's going to be games before that, but this is the period now where Ange does his recruitment. This is where like the next 3 to 4 weeks is where you put those yards in, and there'll be people going away trying to get deals done. I really believe that they won't be waiting until January to do it. Ange will want them in the door, ready to go come beginning of January. So I'm excited to see what that's going to bring. Obviously, we've been linked strongly with Japanese player already, and I think there'll be 2 or 3. That I just think there will be. So it's good signs. It's good.
He spoke about that at the AGM on Friday, didn't he? So in fact, actually in the press conference afterwards, he went quite in depth in the fact that to be a proper Champions League team, he feels that we need to have quite a large overturn of players kind of every season with our best players, maybe a couple every year moving on and replacing them well. So it seems, January onwards, I don't know if we'll see anyone sold in January, for example, but I certainly think we'll see a few coming in.
Yeah, I thought his comments were quite interesting as well, and he mentioned something about, some people might be uncomfortable hearing that. I don't know if he's alluding to obviously outgoings and certain players, but with Ange, you feel confident in terms of recruitment. You feel like you're in safe hands, and as Scott said, I think he's one of those that thinks way ahead. So I think he'll already be learning from this Champions League campaign. He'll already kind of have his mindset on how we can improve, and that might include players that you don't expect probably to be moved on, just because it's part of that evolution, and you feel with Ange you'll get that, like it'll be constantly trying to improve. So certain players might get moved on while their stock's high, but as long as we can use that that money to invest cleverly and get the right players in that he wants, you can only see us getting better. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what January brings as well, and I think we could be busy in terms of ingoings and outgoings, just as part of the evolution of this team.
Yes, exciting times. Right, to finish the video, Scott, we're springing this on you. We've got 2 questions for you from viewers of the channel. One relating to the current team and one kind of more generally about you and your time at the club. So first one up from Paul McGuinness. Question for Scott. Do you think that too much was made after the first Madrid game about us not taking our chances? It looked to me like players were tight in the final third in the matches after that, so it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. As a striker, can you just be told to be more clinical, or might there be a better instruction like be more composed or relaxed?
I think it's to each individual, and I think that to go on about making too much of something, I think that happens in everyday walk of life with social media now. So you've got to adapt. You've got to be capable to deal with that, particularly when you play for Celtic, right? So it doesn't matter if you're playing Champions League or Scottish Premier League. You're expected to score goals. You miss chances, you're going to get criticised. But I think as it evolved, I think what he's alluding to there is because it was alluded to in the first game that it kept happening, that it was made of that was the problem. I think you can read into things too much. Players could have been tight, and probably that feeling of, damn, I've made a meal of this because I'm only going to get that one chance tonight. That's probably the thought process in the player as well, and they might get another chance and they tighten up again because they missed the first one. And yeah, it was an incredible campaign for that, wasn't it? Really, when you look back and you could have a highlights package of it and go, my God, there's a few opportunities they missed, but. Look, it is one of those things. They'll learn from it and hopefully come back again next year and get the opportunity once again.
Right, second question, JD. Hi Scott, I hear a lot of Celtic players over the years talking about when they arrived at Celtic and were stunned about how massive the club was, most recently Virgil van Dijk. Did you feel the same way when you arrived, and why?
No, because I already knew the club. I knew the club from a young age, so it was not a surprise to me. I think the biggest surprise was me being there and actually being a part of it. I think that was the biggest thing for me. And it was just like you were in a dream, in a daydream at the time, particularly early on. Being a part of that, the first pre-season I went on to, we went to America, all the fans there. And like that was probably the biggest thing that I took from it was, I from Australia, so I knew there was a big fanfare anywhere you went with Celtic. But in America, I was like, wow, there's a lot of fans here. It was unbelievable. And then you realise it is a world brand, Celtic, and what it could be in terms of that. Particularly when it's successful. So, and that alludes me to obviously them coming here. So looking forward to that, and hopefully we can sell out the stadiums as well. And there's a lot of promo to be done while they're here, and there's a lot of people will be excited about it and getting behind it. That's for sure.
Excellent. We can't wait, and it's not long away now at all, is it?
No, next week. Next week.
Wow, it's really come up, and we're gonna have to get up in the middle of the night, Asim, like these Aussies, like Scott does for basically every game. We'll be getting up at, I think the game's half 3 in the morning here, or half 4 in the morning here against Everton.
I'll be doing your YouTubes for you. I'll be like, and just outside the Allianz.
Love it. I think the Sydney game's at an all right time. I think we'll get a breakfast with that one. But are you going to get up for it, Asim?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's I used to watch all the pre-season ones when they used to be like in America and Australia. You end up just getting up and watching it. So no, I'm looking forward to it. It's mad how quickly it's crept up though. I remember when it first got announced and we were like, right, this is ages away, and now it's just over a week. So no, it's exciting. Something to look forward to, obviously, just before the World Cup as well.
Right, lads, we will leave it there. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in to watch this, and we will be back tomorrow after the game.